What's up, y'all? Hope you're all good and in high spirits. Today I'm going to do a reaction video. I'm not going to say what video I'm reacting to because it's common across a lot of channels. I used to get really bothered when I'd hear this certain YouTuber say that no one else is capacitated to go into the business world and speak at a high level for us, and that no one is speaking up for us, and that's why he has to take that mantle. And it would bug me to no end because from where I'm sitting, I know that they were looking at the world through this tiny little lens. They don't have much world experience. You know, they don't know anything beyond their neighborhood and maybe a jail cell. But suddenly they're capacitated to be the voice for the people because no one else is doing it. And the part that bothers me is the no one else is doing it but me. So I heard this gentleman, educated, PhD, leader of this advocacy organization, saying that he has to do it because no one else is doing it, that we don't have anyone in office. And it's the same bullshit those YouTubers use. Here's the truth. Again, and then part of the conversation was they have to teach us to talk good. And so anyways, let me tell you, not all raza are the same. There's a lot of raza that speak very well, eloquently even. Raza is the biggest percentage of new admissions into the UC system. There are lots of raza who can speak well. There are lots of raza who are educated. And there are lots of raza who are educated and speak well that also come from the barrio and speak up for the barrio. Most of those raza, from what I've seen, are women. I've seen women mostly take the humiliations, the disrespect, the playing hide the ball and attempts at manipulation from government. They did it on behalf of our communities. So when I hear a vato, with education or without, say that they have to speak up for us because no one else is, I take that as a disrespect to all those raza women that fucking go through that shit all the time on our behalves. I did an interview with one such woman who helped bring close to $60 million to her community, who has accomplished building parks where there were none for people in her community, who has established centers where the raza can gather to plan their advocacy at meetings. I would argue she's done more for our raza than every single YouTuber saying no one speaks up for us, and that's why they have to be the one. This woman grew up in a notorious neighborhood in the street culture. It's known. Went away to college, studied something that can help her give back to her community. Graduated and came back and continues to give back. And every fucking time I hear some vato say, I have to be the one because no one else is doing it, I'm offended for her. Like, really? For views, for clout, you're going to cheapen everything this woman has done for our people? That's what you're doing, in my eyes. Now, I don't know if unity is possible. We have ignorant folks insistent on supporting a racist. We have woke folks insisting on supporting a system that still oppresses us. There's folks on both sides of the political aisle that I don't want to fuck with because I don't think they're an asset to my cause or the betterment of my community, all ethnicities included, and communities like it across the state. I don't just want my community to be nice. I want other communities with similar demographics, similar income levels, similar issues to also thrive. And I know that in a lot of cases, it's women fighting for that more than men. Even as men seem to get the platforms to act like they're the ones doing it. So I just wanted to set the record straight. There are educated, talented raza from the barrio speaking up for the barrio. Sometimes they're alone and the pressure's hard. They're fighting a whole system. But they're out there. And a lot of them are bringing a lot of good benefits to their communities as we speak. As mentioned, I interviewed one that helped bring millions of dollars and help better their community. Things they can actually point to. Not an event they held. Actual accomplishments that have changed their community. There are people speaking up for us. And, regarding the unity, I don't think there's any community that is wholly united. You got white Republicans, you got white Democrats, you got black liberals, you got black conservatives, you got Chinese conservatives, Chinese liberals, Mexican liberals, Mexican conservatives. And so this is a hard question to bring up, but the folks that I hear saying this, no one's speaking up for us, no one's doing this for us, they come from marginalized backgrounds. And a lot of that is because of systemic racism. And as mentioned, UC Davis, not UC, the UC system, the largest group of new admissions were raza. And a lot of those were the first in their family to go to college. And a lot of those came from immigrant families. So I think that what would help these folks saying no one speaks up for us is being more specific in identifying what segment of raza they're talking about. And I don't mean ethnicity. I mean folks who maybe went through the correctional system, the juvenile justice system. Maybe folks who didn't finish school, because it's not true if that person says raza doesn't know how to talk, because a lot of them do. Maybe more than half, maybe 80% know how to speak well, at least from the younger generations, because they're in universities. Maybe the raza that says no one speaks up for us says that because their world is small and they're not out there seeing who is speaking up for us. Maybe when they say, we don't know how to talk, we don't speak well, or we don't talk good, it's because they're in a small world where the people around them don't speak well. But if they expose themselves to the raza that's in school, to the raza that advocates, they would see something different. I'm not even saying they're lying. It's maybe their experience that no one speaks up for them because they don't leave the safety of their world. But it cheapens the hard work of these other folks that are speaking up for the community, that are trying their hardest against a seemingly impossible system to make a difference. And I'm not saying that the folks who say I have to do it aren't trying to make a difference. I think some of them do that shit for clout, but give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll say that they do want to make a difference. It doesn't help their cause to knock down that woman who busts her ass, who does her homework, who isn't trying to glorify herself, but uplift her community's issues. It cheapens her work. That said, the question that I'm struggling with how to word it, because it could seem divisive, but it would be, is there a different work ethic for native-born Americans and immigrant Americans? And it's not just for raza, but we can use that example. Are Chicanos who, let's say, don't speak Spanish, they've been here a long time and live in poverty, and recent immigrants who just got here don't speak English and live in poverty. Are those immigrants more likely to make it out than that raza, than those Chicanos? And are those Chicanos the ones saying, no one's speaking up for us, we don't speak well? Is it that small segment? And I'm using Chicanos and immigrant raza as an example, but I think the same issues or questions are in the minds of people in the Black community, in the Asian community. See, Raza likes to say we don't get along, but I have really close Chinese friends, Trump-supporting Chinese friends. They don't like Chinese from China. They don't. The Chinese from China call them ABCs, American-born Chinese, and they have a word for the Chinese over there. And I have heard gripes, and these are Chinese successful people, but that the Chinese from China tend to bawl more. They don't see the ones working in the kitchens and struggling. They just see the ones that come and are bawling. But I also see it with Black folks. Those foundational Black Americans, they're not trying to give credit to Jamaicans because, they got dropped off the ship before, they got dropped off the ship one stop before America. And, I've heard them deny them accomplishments and say, no, those are our accomplishments. And so there is a schism there across ethnicities. It's not just raza. A sense of competition between the American-born ethnicities and the immigrant ethnicities of the same kind. I'll look around the hood and I see a lot of Middle Eastern immigrants. There's a lot of, burqas and the long Afghanistan-type clothes around my community. And a part of me thinks those motherfuckers are gonna make it out this neighborhood before the Black and brown families that have been here for generations. And when I say motherfuckers, that's just how I talk. I don't got anything against them. In fact, I'm always calling out the government for talking about equity and inclusion, and there's no Middle Eastern folks in those processes as far as South Sac is concerned, where there's an enclave of them. So I tell government, save me that. Let's celebrate Arab heritage, and you make decisions about them without any input from them, which, according to Martin Luther King, is an injustice, and I agree. So I do advocate for them. And when I said motherfuckers, it's just like, damn, these motherfuckers are going to come up before everyone else that's been here. And so I wonder, if there is a difference in work ethic, what causes that? One time I went to this work site with one of my relatives, and he doesn't speak Spanish. He's Chicano. He's fully Mexican, but don't know a lick of Spanish, right? And go to this work site. It's a union construction crew, and they were all Chicanos. And they were all mad that they were told to stay home one day while a Paisa crew was brought in to do their job. And they were bad-mouthing the Paisas. And it was over competition for work. Here you had a union group of Chicanos, you had a union group of Paisas. Or maybe they weren't even union, and that was part of the problem. But somehow the company saw fit to bring in this group because they preferred the work product. They preferred the product that was produced in the time it was produced. And so, again, it's not a thing on Chicanos, it's a thing on, does this country make you feel entitled to things that diminish your productivity? And do people coming from a country where things are not a given, do they appreciate them more, such that they take better advantage of them? Now, I think I gave an example the other day of, I was in a work position where I was the only immigrant there. And, the American-born folks would be like, well, I'm not jumping because of that. I have these rights. And I was like, I'll do it. I'm just grateful to get out of here for a minute. And there was a sense of entitlement that I didn't have. I might have it now, but I didn't have it then. That I think made me a better worker. And so that's just food for thought. I didn't know how to ask it because I don't want to be divisive. And I know there's exceptions to everything. I know there's a whole bunch of Chicanos out there that work harder than a whole bunch of Mexicans. I know some lazy-ass Mexicans. And Chicanos and FBAs and Jamaicans and ABCs and native Chinese. There's no absolutes when it comes to stereotypes. And anyways, I'll leave it there. It's food for thought. Just my impression is that immigrants are more likely to escape poverty than someone who inherited it. Maybe that's the most diplomatic way to say it. An immigrant in poverty here is more likely to escape that poverty than someone who was born into it. And I think the folks maybe born into it are the ones that say, and I was born into it. I was just fortunate enough to see more of the world than, my block or my city, or even my state. Which, to be honest with you, in San Francisco, I've been in San Francisco, and went from one world to another in the span of 3 blocks. I went from the most alien, wild shit you can imagine to glitz and glam in the span of 3 blocks. Those are wholly different worlds that don't intersect. So you don't gotta go far to see different worlds. But when you go to other places, you stand in front of something that people have stood in front of for centuries, and you realize how insignificant we really are. Anyways, that then gives you more perspective. You realize the world doesn't revolve around us. And hopefully this video, it's some food for thought, and that folks at least recognize when they say that no one is speaking up for us, no one does anything for us, that in saying that, you diminish or actually deny the work of all the raza who saw a need in their community, went away to college to learn something that they could bring back to help their community. There are people like that in California and across the nation. And the ones I've been lucky enough to meet were pretty amazing people. So shout outs to Sandra, LaDonna, Paula, Nama, Janet, and much love.